รายการต่อไปนี้เป็นรายการทั่วไปสามารถรับชมได้ทุกวัย
สวัสดีค่ะทุกประเทศทั่วโลกวัดความเจริญก้าวหน้าของตัวเองด้วย GDP หรือผลิตภัณฑ์มวลรวมภายในประเทศแต่ในช่วง10 กว่าปีที่ผ่านมาประเทศชั้นนำของโลกรวมถึงสหประชาชาติเองพยายามที่จะหาดัชนีที่จะวัดไม่ใช่เฉพาะการเติบโตทางเศรษฐกิจเท่านั้นแต่วัดมิติอื่นๆด้วยที่ทำให้คุณภาพชีวิตของประชาชนนั้นดีขึ้น GDP มีข้อด้อยตรงไหนและอะไรคือปัจจัยอื่นๆที่เราควรให้ความสนใจเพราะว่าจะนำไปสู่ความอยู่ดีกินดีมากยิ่งขึ้นเราจะคุยกับศาสตราจารย์เอนริโก จิโอวานนินีนักเศรษฐศาสตร์นักสถิติชาวอิตาเลียนเป็นผู้เชี่ยวชาญด้านการพัฒนาอย่างยั่งยืนปัจจุบันเขาดำรงตำแหน่งประธานร่วมของที่ปรึกษาของสหประชาชาติด้านการพัฒนาอย่างยั่งยืนค่ะศาสตราจารย์เอนริโก จิโอวานนินีชาวอิตาเลียนวัย 58 ปีเป็นนักเศรษฐศาสตร์และนักสถิติที่มีชื่อเสียงระดับประเทศและระดับนานาชาติในปี 2001 ถึง 2009 จิโอวานนินีเป็นหัวหน้านักสถิติขององค์การเพื่อความร่วมมือทางเศรษฐกิจและการพัฒนาหรือ OECD ในปี 2009 ถึง 2013 เขาดำรงตำแหน่งประธานสำนักงานสถิติแห่งชาติของอิตาลีและในปี 2013 ถึง 2014 เขาดำรงตำแหน่งรัฐมนตรีแรงงานและสังคมของอิตาลีปัจจุบันจิโอวานนินีเป็นศาสตราจารย์ด้านสถิติที่โรม University ตอ Vergata และเป็นประธานร่วมของคณะที่ปรึกษาเกี่ยวกับการพัฒนาที่ยั่งยืนให้กับสหประชาชาติตลอดการทำงานที่ผ่านมาศาสตราจารย์จิโอวานนินีได้เสนอแนวคิดการวัดความก้าวหน้าของประเทศด้วยดัชนีที่ชี้วัดความอยู่ดีกินดีความเท่าเทียมและความยั่งยืนมากกว่าเรื่องการเจริญเติบโตของตัวเลขทางเศรษฐกิจเพียงอย่างเดียว Professor Enrico, why do we have to change the way we think or the way we evaluate countries' progress at this time?
It's clear that economic progress is important. We still have a lot of people who are poor, who are socially excluded, but at the same time, we know that we have environmental problems, we have social problems, and GDP is a good measure only at the beginning of a development process, because of course money is important, but it's not the whole story. And now we know that some of the problems we are facing are interconnected. So if we just look at one indicator, this is not enough. As when you are driving, if you just look at speed, it doesn't tell you how long you will be driving because the tank can be empty. This is the problem that we are facing now.
But GDP is still a useful indicator.
It's a useful indicator to understand how the economy works. But for example, it doesn't tell you very much about how much people get out of this. For example, in Europe, over the last 6 years, the GDP per capita net of inflation increased by 2%. But the household disposable income, which is what people get after paying taxes, declined by 5.5. So a big difference, as you can see. So there is no point in just looking so carefully to GDP. We have a lot of other measures, and we should pay the same attention. And also media should pay more attention to these other measures.
What are these other measures that we should pay more attention to?
Well, for example, on the economic side, we have to assume the people's perspective. Looking at the household income, for example, is something that is much closer to people's everyday life. And of course, this GDP and household income can diverge, for example, because of profits of multinationals that go abroad or remittances of immigrants and so on. So we have to focus on what matters to people. On top, we have to look at the social exclusion, such as income distribution. We know now that a very unequal society doesn't help also in growing because there are economic phenomena that push down consumption and or investment if the uncertainty is so high. Then human capital. We know that education is very important. So we have to look at how educated are people, what kind of investment we are making on people's capacity. And from this point of view, let me say that an investment in a bridge is counted as an investment, while an expenditure in school is counted as a consumption. This doesn't make any sense, of course. We have to change national accounts from this point of view. And finally, environment. Environment is very important, but unfortunately, we still have data that are coming too late. We have quarterly GDP, we have monthly industrial production, which are very important, but then the data about environment lack now, and they come when they're already old, 2 or 3 years old. So this also biases, in a sense, the debate.
So what comprehensive index would you advocate, if not GDP, to include all the factors that you talked about just now?
We have been discussing this for years at international level. And I don't think that we have now an answer to this question. I understand that people, especially media, love just a single number. Now, the problem is that you may have some ingredients of well-being that are getting better, others that are worsening. They're negatively correlated, which means that one goes up, the other goes down. So putting together these kind of measures may tell you that nothing is changing, while a lot of things are changing. For example, economic growth can lead to more pollution. And if you combine all these ingredients into one indicator, you may miss the messages. Canada tried to do that, and it was very flat for years. Why? Because some elements of well-being were improving, others were worsening. So we have to live with the complexity. But I'm sure that we can deal with a basket of indicators that can be selected by also looking at people, what people think is important to them. So this bottom-up is very important in order to have a measure of progress of a society and the country that also reflects the values of that particular society.
ในช่วง10 กว่าปีที่ผ่านมาทิศทางการพัฒนาประเทศในเวทีระดับนานาชาติมุ่งเน้นไปที่การพัฒนาอย่างยั่งยืนเช่นองค์การเพื่อความร่วมมือทางเศรษฐกิจและการพัฒนาหรือ OECD ซึ่งมีสมาชิกเป็นประเทศชั้นนำ34 ประเทศได้คิดค้นและพัฒนาดัชนีชี้วัดที่เรียกว่า Better Life Index หรือดัชนีชีวิตที่ดีกว่าซึ่งเป็นดัชนีที่เน้นวัดความเป็นอยู่ที่ดีของประชาชนOECD พยายามผลักดันให้หลายประเทศใช้ดัชนีนี้เป็นตัวกำหนดแนวทางนโยบายประเทศแทนการใช้ GDP เมื่อเดือนสิงหาคมปีที่แล้วบันคีมูนเลขาธิการสหประชาชาติได้ตั้งกลุ่มคณะที่ปรึกษาผู้เชี่ยวชาญอิสระขึ้นมาเพื่อรวบรวมวิเคราะห์สถิติข้อมูลสำหรับการพัฒนาอย่างยั่งยืนจนได้ตีพิมพ์เป็นรายงาน A World That Counts Mobilizing the Data Revolution for Sustainable Development เพื่อเป็นข้อมูลให้ประเทศต่างๆนำไปใช้เป็นแนวทางการพัฒนาประเทศที่เน้นคุณภาพชีวิตที่ดีของประชาชน At the international level, has there been any agreement so far of how exactly to measure progress of
Well, there are a
nations?
lot of developments. The OECD, I was the chief statistician when this whole story started 10 years ago. And now we have this Better Life Index, which is, I would say, a very good index that brings together these components at European level, at the UN level. More and more attention is paid to these elements. With Joe Stiglitz and Amartya Sen and Jean-Paul Fitoussi, when the President Sarkozy from France asked us to develop a comprehensive framework, we said we have to look at health, environment, education, economic elements, interpersonal relations, work and life balance, and then community conditions. So as you can see, is something that is quite comprehensive. But I'm sure that if I ask you what would you wish to the best beloved people to you for their lives. You would say a good job,
Good
some
health.
money, good health, good friends, good environment. You see, at the end of the day, these are the ingredients that make a well-being everywhere.
I think about Bhutan's happiness index. What about that one? Does that work?
It's an interesting exercise. I was asked by the King of Bhutan to go there in 2013. I think that approach is interesting. And beside the language, it's not very far from what Western countries are doing, for example, in Italy or in Germany or in United Kingdom, where this well-being framework has become a standard also for the government. There is an interesting commission in Bhutan, but also similar to that using sustainable development in Australia or New Zealand, that each and every new legislation has to be assessed looking at these different parameters. So it's a sort of ex-ante evaluation of new legislation, not only in terms of income or GDP or deficit and so on, but also in terms of environment, happiness and so on. It's an interesting approach, which is of course very much linked to the cultural environment on Eastern countries that I love really, because it takes people and puts it at the core of the social and the political goals.
So now in European countries, how much do they actually use this well-being framework in implementing or changing policies?
Maybe a lot of countries are doing that without using this language. For example, in European Scandinavian countries, northern countries, we have the so-called flex security system. If you lose your job, the public sector gives you some money just to afford life, but at the same time you have to go and train again your capacities in order to be taken back into the labor market and so on. This is very important to build resilience of people, build capacities of people to react to crisis and increase their well-being.
This is social welfare.
It's a little bit more because it's not just a transfer of money, but it's something that puts people at the core of the policy and aims at rebuilding their capacity, which is a capacity that also is very important to have general well-being.
What about in your country, Italy?
When I was president of the Italian Statistical Office, I launched this initiative on measuring equitable and sustainable well-being. And now we have a system of indicators that is being used also by big municipalities in order to design their policies. And also some regions of Italy have decided to use this framework to define their strategic policy framework. So it's something that is moving forward.
Is it effective? Can you please give me an example of how this can impact policy formulation?
Environmental policies are very important in this respect. And now we have measures of new natural capital that tell us how much pollution each and every economic sector is producing, also at a micro level. And so we have adopted in Italy now some policies in order to reduce pollution by sector or to fight against what we call the eco-criminality. So I think that this kind of approach is improving the overall coherence of policies towards better well-being of people.
What about in other aspects apart from environment?
We have, when I was minister, for example, we have established a quite large project to take young people who are not in employment, education and training back to schools or to work, because the loss of human capital that is due to inactivity of people, especially young people, is huge. This is something that is really linked to this idea of having human capital as a very important ingredient of well-being. So we launched this whole project and we have now 500,000 young people who are in this system in order to take them back to the social and education process.
Are all these indices for well-being more for developed countries and not developing countries? Because maybe the prime concern for developing countries is prosperity. Let's make money first. Let's get out of poverty, and then to talk about to have an equitable society, that would be of second priority.
This is exactly the way in which Western society behaved, and we know the cost of doing this. Not only in terms of environment, we don't have 5 Earths to consume, and so we have to adopt a sustainable approach since the beginning in order to avoid to make the same mistakes that the others have made. But as you said, prosperity, which means economic well-being, is very important. Nobody can deny it.
Let's get rich first.
Yes, but if to get rich, we destroy environment and social relations, and we create social unrest, this doesn't make the system sustainable. We have a lot of studies that now also for developing countries show that this is a risk. So we have a huge evidence that it's much better to have a more balanced approach since the beginning, which doesn't mean to have less money, but make things differently. Of course, companies have to burn eventually a higher cost in terms, for example, of social security or environmental degradation. But this is, I think, a must for everyone. We have to change our consumption style. So the problem is not to do less, but to do things differently.
What are the main pillars for sustainable development?
Normally, in the way in which sustainable development is described, everybody talks about 3 pillars: the economic, the social, and the environmental. But actually, in the original report by the Brundtland Commission more than 20 years ago, there was a 4th one, which is the institutional one. Without efficient institutions, the economic and the social life doesn't work very well.
Institutions as in?
I mean institutions, both public institutions, the capacity of taking right decisions, being accountable to people, but also be efficient, not having public sectors that are too big just to rescue themselves, let's say, or corruption and so on. These are ingredients that limit overall the capacity of a society to be sustainable.
Is something very wrong with capitalism then, today, the world we are living in?
Well, there are 2 ingredients. First, a lot of costs are not counted. And we believe that capitalism is a great system in order to make good decisions, but based on prices that reflect the reality. And we know that a lot of costs, like environmental costs, are not counted in the way in which profits are calculated, for example. So the market has limits in this particular situation. On the other hand, there are now studies by the OECD, the European Commission, the International Monetary Fund, that say, look, growth is going to decline in future for various reasons. So we cannot just count on the fact that growth, economic growth, will solve all the problems. We have to change our model in order to avoid this so-called secular stagnation, which means decline in growth rate, will become a social problem. So we need to change the paradigm. And there are a lot of proposals. Some companies, as I said, are trying to change even their accounting systems in order to reflect the social value of what they do and not just the profits. These all ingredients are important. Statistics, again, are very important to make clear the advantages and the disadvantages of choices, or the cost and benefits.
In Thailand, I'm not so sure if you're familiar with His Majesty the King's concept of sufficient economy. More or less, it's about moderation. Is this also sustainable development in what we have been talking about, in what you have been working?
Absolutely, yes. I think that a lot of countries are looking at what Thailand is doing. This language on sufficient economy is very interesting because it gives the idea that we cannot grow without limits and that we have to focus on important things. For our well-being, economic ingredients, let's say, are very important, but it's not the whole story. And we know that we can destroy good things if we just look at making more money every single day. I think that the world is discovering this, and I think that the Thai approach can be followed also by others. So in this general movement towards sustainable development, the Thai model is very interesting.
What would you tell people to take more notice about sustainable development and not only care about making money?
Media have to be more balanced from this point of view and help people to understand this more holistic view of what well-being is. And then people may decide, I hope they will decide, to make better choices for themselves and when they ask the government to do something. Sustainable development is a must. We don't have another alternative. Unsustainable development means destroying our societies, economies, environment. And I don't think that we should be doing that.
การได้พูดคุยกับศาสตราจารย์ Enrico Giovannini ทำให้เราจะต้องกลับมาคิดนะคะว่าความเจริญก้าวหน้าของประเทศนั้นคงจะวัดไม่ได้เฉพาะจากมิติของเศรษฐกิจเท่านั้นแต่จะต้องรวมปัจจัยอื่นๆที่สำคัญเช่นเดียวกันไม่ว่าจะเป็นสิ่งแวดล้อมที่ดีสุขภาพที่ดีหรือว่าการศึกษาที่ดีเป็นต้นเพราะฉะนั้นการวางแผนพัฒนาประเทศถ้าเกิดว่าคำนึงถึงปัจจัยเหล่านี้เข้ามาด้วยแน่นอนว่าจะทำให้ประเทศนั้นก้าวหน้าอย่างยั่งยืนและประชาชนนั้นมีความสุขอย่างแท้จริงค่ะพบกันใหม่สัปดาห์หน้าวันนี้สวัสดีค่ะ